The long, drawn-out negotiations between New York Times journalists and management are at a boiling point nearly a year and a half after the last contract expired, and more than 2 years without a pay hike. "People are very angry," said one insider, echoing what other sources told the Post. "The company is basically offering the same kind of wage increase they did when they were losing money." In addition to an 8% raise, the News Guild labor union is demanding a cost of living increase of 5.25%, and insisting that all workers who can work remotely retain that option indefinitely, and with no mandatory return to offices before July 2023. Management is said to have not yet put forward a precise number, with sources close to the negotiations saying the company wants to make wages the last matter to be dealt with in negotiations after tackling questions about vacation, sabbaticals, healthcare and pensions. The union, meanwhile, is pushing to make wage hikes the central part of the bargaining sessions. The News Guild labor union wants an 8% raise and a 5.25% cost of living increase to be at the forefront of negotiations, but management has reportedly stalled wage talks. AFP via Getty Images. The Guild did not return calls for comment, but an email, seen by the Post, to its members last week, said in part, "At the bargaining table, management once again refused to discuss wages, one of the most important parts of our contract. It's been 5 months since we heard from the Times on wages." The last contract expired at the end of March 2021, and members' last pay hike was in March 2020. When new executive editor Joe Kahn stepped into his role in June, nearly 900 journalists signed a petition in hopes of getting it on his desk. Nearly 900 journalists have signed a petition in hopes of getting it on the desk of Joe Kahn, executive editor of the New York Times. Paid refuses /SEPA/Shutterstock. The petition points out that, in fiscal year 2021, the company had an EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation and amortization, of over $330 million, up 36% from the previous year. The News Guild labor union also blasted Neat Press for handing out $16 million in bonuses to its top 5 executives, including publisher A.G. Sulzberger, the scion of the family that has long controlled the paper, who pulled down an extra $2.9 million in bonus, stock and other compensation on top of his $612,000 annual salary. President Meredith Kopit Levine, meanwhile, received a bonus package of $5.8 million in addition to her $900,000 salary. In fiscal year 2021, Neat had an EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation and amortization, of over $330 million, up 36% from the previous year. Getty Images. The union pointed out that the $16 million amount is nearly equal to the $20 million in wage hikes that the Guild is seeking for around 1,300 reporters, photographers and advertising personnel. Wirecutter and the Tech Guild are not part of this bargaining unit. By stretching out contract negotiations, the company may have inadvertently lost some bargaining strength. The union is now demanding bigger pay hikes to compensate for the runaway inflation gripping the U.S. It is also seeking to double bereavement time from 5 to 10 days. NEET publisher A.G. Sulzberger pulled down an extra $2.9 million in bonus, stock and other compensation on top of his $612,000 annual salary for 2021. Getty Images. Khan, who was announced as the successor to Dean Baquet as executive editor in April, issued a response. As I undertake my new responsibilities, I share your sense of urgency to get a new collective bargaining agreement in place, he wrote to bargaining employees. You have all contributed to the success of the Times in recent years, and many of you also made sacrifices to help the company when the business faced strong headwinds in the past. The new contract can and should reward you for making the Times what it is today. But he made no promises. I need to leave the specifics of contract terms to the team at the negotiating table. Khan issued a statement that read in part, I share your sense of urgency to get a new collective bargaining agreement in place, but made no promises as to when. LPix/Getty Images. While the two sides remain far apart on wage demands, there has been some progress on some minor points. The Guild said the NEET has agreed to add Juneteenth, Veterans Day and Indigenous Peoples Day to its paid holiday calendar. Things could be coming to a head at the next bargaining session later this month. The Guild memo said further, if management does not offer a meaningful response at our next session on August 24, we will consider it a refusal to bargain and we will take appropriate action. That could mean, among other options, filing an unfair labor practice with the National Labor Relations Board. The next negotiating session is slated to be a marathon 3-hour stint. A spokesperson for the NEET had not responded to calls or texts at the time of publication.